Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I'm joined by Rich Reynertson, the very first CEO that I ever worked for in this industry, and I'm grateful to have him joining us on the show. Rich, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Can you remind me, were you a good employee at the time?
I wasn't long lived, let's say that.
There
By
you
my
go.
choice, as far as I know, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see
so
you again.
yeah, great to have you on here. So, you guys, Rich is the president of we say Valeris Group. We've got Cultura Tech. You've got a number of different names that we hear about
Well,
associated with
let me clarify it for you.
charity. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm the president of Cultura Technologies. We are a
Yep,
portfolio of 14 companies
yep.
inside the Valaris Group, which is part of a publicly traded company called Constellation Software.
Gotcha. Perfect,
So
perfect.
the ag portfolio inside Constellation and public anyway.
You bet. Okay, very good. What would be a couple of the brands? I know there's some recognizable brands underneath Greenstone that people probably use every day, but maybe don't know the parent company.
They would know us as Agris.
Agris. There you go.
If you're a facility operator, you know us at one way. I think one way touches about 60% of the grain goes across our scales in North America.
There you go. Okay, that will make it make sense for a lot of folks, especially across ag retail and some other spots. So,
You bet.
yeah, very good, man. Okay, you get the same opening question though that everybody gets. Let's make sure we get that one. What does it mean for you, Rich, to be intentional?
Well, from a business perspective, it means, especially at my role, I focus on our mission. Our mission is twofold: to deploy capital as we're required to do at better than average returns, and to fulfill our role in helping to improve the ag supply chain.
Hmm.
And so everything we do gets filtered through those two things. So intentional means maintaining the focus as it applies to the mission, which is formed by our belief system.
I really like that. Actually, that is one of the cleanest business-oriented definitions that we've received on the show. So it's, I mean, it's really, I mean, at the end of the day, it's knowing what you're about and then executing against that. Fair?
Yeah, and I think we try to do this with every individual as I've changed as I've gotten older, but for me it's again it's about the mission. And COVID, caused a lot of us to kind of take a look hard at who we are and
Hmm.
how we do things. The way we do work has changed. Yeah, how we manage people has changed, and during that great time of uncertainty, I heard that you can't give your employees certainty, but you can give them clarity.
Mm.
And for each individual, each team, each business that reports to us, I ask them to really focus on three things: know who you are, what makes you tick, know your role, and be a positive influence in the communities that you serve. We
Hmm.
don't define who people are. We have an influence on the roles, right, that are in the business and whatnot, but it goes beyond
Hmm.
your role as a PS leader. You're probably also a husband or a wife or a brother or a sister or a church member. And then you belong to a community, and some of those we define and some of those you define. But if every year you look back and say, do I know myself better than I knew myself last year? Is what makes me tick and get up and dance, and do I understand where my role fits and why it's important and what happens if it didn't exist? And can I point back and say I've been a really positive influence in my community? Is my community better off because I chose to serve, or did my community not know who I am? And if you can look back there, I think certainty over what your future looks like becomes a little more clear.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyway,
I love it. You're going to know a tree by its fruit, as we say on the show, I think all the time, it feels like. And that rings true with what you're saying. Uh,
yeah.
tell us about the business. I mean, we understand that Cultura Tech, 14 companies, some of the brands that you guys represent. Just give us a little bit deeper context, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So we're primarily in the row crop
Hmm.
and in fruit and veg space. And we started dabbling a little bit on the front end of the agricultural supply chain. So our 14 businesses span North America and Europe. We have just over 500 employees. We experience double-digit growth every year, which is fun and a bit challenging sometimes
Yeah.
to be able to manage through that. And we touch almost every part of the supply chain. So we
Hmm.
don't do a lot of on farm, but those who sell to the farm, buy from the farm, process it, primary processors, secondary processors, packaging, distribution, redistribution sometimes, all the way out to the store. We kind of end at the point of sale,
Yep.
but on the front end, we also have systems that help with compliance. So if you want to put fruit on the shelf and it has to be pesticide free. In the UK, it goes through our systems. And so the grocery store makes the demands that fit with the compliance or the consumer needs. And
Yeah.
then we provide the third party attestation to make sure it's complying with whatever goes on the label or whatever the requirement is to come through. And I think we do that in Germany, UK, Ireland, and and now starting in North America. And the one business we just created in North America, which is the first one we founded from scratch, we called Credit Crop,
Hmm.
and it came out of the concept that when something comes out of the ground, it's no longer just about weights and grades. And we see that in fruit and vegetables, we see that in the protein space. It's about how it was produced, what you used or didn't use to produce it. Did you put on a cover crop? Did you not put it on? So how do you then digitally enhance that crop
Hmm.
so that downstream it meets a requirement. But even more importantly, if I'm asking a farmer to change practice, so it's more valuable to me, how do I get that value back to the farmer when
Sure.
that value might be 2 or 3 steps away from the farmer?
Right.
It gets
Right.
aggregated and then put on a barge and then shipped someplace and shows up in an
Hmm.
ethanol plant. How does everybody participate in that extra value creation and not just be
Sure.
the cost consumer of that extra effort?
Wow. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. How do we track the compliance and the participation and things that they're actually
yeah.
doing so they get credit? Cool.
And digitally enhancing a commodity that's an application, but
Yeah.
if you want to get better value for something coming out of Costa Rica or Colombia or
Hmm.
Chile, if you use the wrong shipper, you get worse rates on your bank loans because
Mm.
that shipper is not compliant with whatever carbon
Sure. Interesting.
requirements are put on that. Or I may not want mangoes that were produced with slave labor,
Right.
right? On
Right.
that side of it, or cocoa, right, where people weren't treated properly. So it's not just about application; it's
Hmm.
process and methods that come along with the crop. So again, weight and grade was the old way.
Hmm.
Now it's how do we, and if I could create a digital footprint that's attestable, it's not just I promise I did better this year. Someone can
Right.
come in and actually audit that, and we can create value. We started exploring, can that value then get traded, and how do we
Hmm.
open up new markets for people that are doing things that are better versus the way we've done it in the past.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
The
fun.
world we live in. Yeah, that is cool. It is fun. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you talk about double digit growth and how do we keep up with that off the mic. We almost didn't make a show today because we just talked for a long time about things like culture and how to grow it. I want to come back to that and apply that to your situation. So, what do you have to do in order to keep culture growing? You've had some professional initiatives where you've had to start to bring people around to maybe a new way of thinking and had some thoughts on how to build culture that way. Can you elaborate a little bit on how you're getting that done?
Well, we had built the portfolio by making investments in, I would call, for lack of better terms, fit for purpose software for agriculture. Businesses that
Hmm.
were acquired, Agris was acquired from John Deere in 2011. We acquired Cal Software in the UK that is like Agris-like in the UK markets and other businesses. And the way that we ran those businesses, we pushed a lot of the incentives to the business itself. So they ran independently, tied them together by rewarding them with the ability to participate in the largest public company's growth. With the public company expanded massively,
Right.
but there was no sense of belonging to Cultura. It was an independent business acquired by Cultura as
Hmm.
part of this big public entity. And stated before, when I took over the portfolio in July post COVID, it's like I think we could do better if we can somehow get people that are running really strong businesses for us to be more capital investors themselves. And if we could get them to do that in a collaborative way across the supply chain, we could with our reach and with our customers' reach, we could do more than just be capital employers. We could change how agriculture works. We can help the supply chains become more adaptable. AI comes along and is just even accelerating that. It's not about selling software, and it's not just about enabling you to use your data for your benefit. It's enabling you to publish your data and participate in the benefit it creates everybody up and down the supply chain. So, but
Mm-hmm.
how would we change a culture of strong independent businesses to strong independent businesses that acted collaboratively,
Hmm.
even if sometimes that collaboration might cause them some short-term pain?
Yeah.
And I was struggling with how would I teach that? How would I grow that? How would I educate people? And I
What a
ran
big
across,
challenge.
yeah, I ran across people who said culture change is the toughest. The spreadsheet's the easy part.
Yeah.
That's the writing the business strategy, putting the spreadsheet together, all that stuff it's hard work, and I don't want to minimize people that do that for a living, but
Well,
the
no.
execution pieces, oh my Lord, it's changing culture is tough, and so we decided to take a book out of a group that really knows how to build strong communities. And we said, well, we got to get people into circles because circles are better than rows. You put people in a row, they go home, but they're not. And a circle is not loose. It's a group of committed people
Hmm.
to accomplishing something. And it's like you got to get them from the sidewalk into the kitchen and develop relationships because at the end of the day, it's people with a strong belief to do something that will give up some personal short-term gratitude for the greater good of everybody that's in that circle. But you don't do that if you don't know the rest of the people in the circle. So we started forming circles internally across our businesses, and we started forming circles externally with groups of customers, sometimes even competitors, and association talking about common needs, thinking a little bit ahead of what the next 5 years is going to do to us or for us,
Hmm.
and with the distinct purpose of how could we leverage digital assets to not only improve our current operations but get us ready for what the future might hold.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
And I'd love to tell you that we're on the other side of that, coasting down the hill, Mark, but
Yeah.
egos get in the way. We never used to do it that way. Gets in the way. You weren't hired. You didn't hire me to act that way. All that stuff, that I'm sure nobody else on the that's listening to this has to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the quote that you said to me off mic was that circles are better than rows. And
yeah,
so, when you put people in rows at a meeting and you say, this is what we're going to do, immediately you have resistance. And by the
yeah.
way, this is interesting. So when I was learning facilitation back in my FFA career in 2002, this is before I even worked for you, but when I would go to facilitator training in Indianapolis with National FFA, and there's a guy named Mark Reardon who later on I actually hired to teach my team all these same things. But one of the things that we learned as it pertains to facilitating a good classroom is that anytime that you have that podium and the teacher or the lecturer or the CEO is standing behind the podium, immediately there's a barrier,
That's
right?
right.
And then when you put rows with tables and tables with water and three ring binders and stuff like that in front of people, Then you have like you have a barrier stack, right? So it's just stacking, and there's all, and the resistance just gets bigger and bigger the further you go back in the room. And the bigger the room, the more resistance you're going to have. It's no different than conducting electricity. Like the more resistance you have, the harder it is to get it to flow from the high point to the low point. So where I'm going with this is what we adopted in our classroom, and we do this in our trainings to this day, is circles. There will be we might have it might be a square because not every conference room has round tables. If they have round
Hmm.
tables, we use round tables. Sometimes it's squares, but it's a group of people sitting around a table. We put them in groups of 4, 5, 6, break them up 8, depending how big the tables are, how big the room is, and how many participants we have. And my facilitation team has no PowerPoint banned in our classrooms. And our facilitation team has no 3-ring binders, nothing from a traditional training context. And it's all Socratic. So it's conversation based. All we
Hmm.
do is ask questions and get people to participate. And it breaks down the walls, man. It makes it whatever idea it is that we're trying to sell. Usually we're just trying to sell people on the next best version of themselves so that they'll actually adopt whatever, behaviors we're trying to help them get to. Um, that's it. And when you remove the barriers, all of a sudden, like the conversation flows freely. And in our world, we say this is what we say about our business: is our job is just to be there to inspire people's desire to want to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you remove the barriers, it happens.
Yeah. Um, it, it, it allow, like you said, enables people,
Right. Yep.
and it enables more people to participate.
Right.
And
Exactly.
listening is one skill set, but um, if they're participating, they're learning.
Yeah.
Someone told me, if you want to learn something, go teach it.
It's
Right?
the fastest
It's
way
like,
to get there.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. So some of our internal circles, we form them intentionally, and we have a little bit of a facilitator training internally, but the objective is to have that group stay together for a year and then duplicate itself.
Yeah. That's good.
So the first job of the facilitator is to look for and train up the next facilitator.
You bet. And then you
So the
recruit.
next time, so if you had 10 circles created this way in your business, next year you'll have 20, and the year after that you'll have 40. The first year I think we had 9, the second year we had 22. So
Wow.
it's the allowing that, and it's employee driven. It's not us
Yeah.
pushing it. It's creating
Yep.
creating environments for the culture to happen, not trying to force the culture,
And I
because
think that's
people
so.
people people don't change that way.
I'm gonna pray, Rich, that there's some, just because I know so many of our retail customers that we both have, we probably share a bunch of customers, are going through mergers and acquisitions right now like crazy.
Oh,
In part
yeah,
because of this time, in part because of the economy. Everybody's getting exposed, at this point, for the good or not as good. So it is what it is, and that's happening. I have multiple deals on hold waiting for mergers to finish. So,
sure.
I'm waiting. But on the backside of that is mess. There's almost always a mess to clean up. And so I think what you're sharing here is pretty wise, and I think people should pay attention.
Yeah, it's as you know, we're in a creative business, and so we're constantly looking for investments and things to buy and bringing them out. I always tell the owners, it's what's it like? I say, well, you're on the outside of our circle. I need to get to the inside of our circle. And those old balls you had as kids, you pull them apart and all the pieces drop out.
Yeah.
I said, well,
Yep.
your piece is going to drop out. You're a round circle and I'm a square, and we need to take your round circle and stick it into our square. And,
Right.
and as that process happens, we're going to create friction.
Yep.
Even if you match perfectly, we'd create some friction getting it through.
Always. Yep.
The friction's worth it, by the way. Once you're in, it'll be better, I promise. But just know going into it that there's going to be some friction. Please don't. We're not. Everything's not all rosy. We're going to do this merger, and then everybody's going to be happy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that's part of
yeah,
the thing that people that really messes with people is they think that there's not, as we think as people, that there's somehow not supposed to be. And maybe it's a CEO or somebody who just, says, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to put it together, and it's everybody's going to get along and it's good for the business. So kumbaya. It never works that way, but the friction actually is really useful. It helps us come together faster. It
Yeah.
sucks. It's not great to go through, but neither was my workout this morning.
Well, and I remember the business you worked in. We ended up selling to a really large global
Yep.
international business,
Yep.
and the first day they were introducing us to this business. Now this business is 1,000 times bigger than us, and an IT department that was massive. And we get introduced, and there's a whole bunch of people sitting off to the side with their arms crossed and not like, and they're employees. And
Yeah.
afterwards, I talked to my integration manager. What's going on there? It's like they're worried for their jobs. No, no, you bought it. My team's worried for their job. You bought us. I don't know.
Yeah.
My team's worried for their jobs because they thought we bought you to replace them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There's a sometimes when you're the acquirer,
Yep.
you're worried about the acquiree, and you don't do enough time taking care of your people
Yeah. Interesting.
to
Yep.
explain what's happening, right? And that's because you're going to cause problems on both sides of the equation, not on the. Well, why'd they
Yeah.
buy them? Did they not like us? Which is
Yep.
something, and this is a large 100-plus-year-old business, and you think you guys have done this before?
Yeah. You'd think they'd have
It's
it
the-
dialed in by now, right?
no, yeah, people of which
Yeah.
I count
Funny.
myself one,
Uh,
we're just messy. Yeah.
yeah. Yep. Yep. Same here. Okay, Rich, I know our time's running short today, but is there, I want to make this a little bit more personal for a minute. Is there a book or a resource, podcast, something like that that you'd recommend folks pay attention to further their own personal development?
So I have this morning I looked up my you got this question, so I looked up my two go-to books, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Please.
One of that I got early on. I was 29 years old, and they hired me to buy a third of the business. They financed it because I had no money, and
Hmm.
I took over the CEO role. And I thought, oh shoot, they believe me now. What do I do? I'm a kid
Yeah.
sitting behind this big old nasty desk, and I went to the president of Carlson Companies in Minneapolis and just said, hey, you don't know me. I'm a young entrepreneur. I just convinced myself to give me a job that's like 3 levels above my competency. I don't know what to do. Can you help me?
Right.
And he handed me a book, and it was like an old family Bible. It was torn on the pages. It was He pulled it out of his briefcase, and he says, "You take this book, and you read it about every 2 or 3 years, and you take the notes out that are applicable at the time." And the book is called Corporate Life Cycles by Adrizi. I can send you the link if you want
Yeah.
on,
Please.
on
Yeah.
that side of it. And he takes you through the growth of an organization from birth to bureaucracy.
Hmm.
And what it really helped with is, as I've built businesses over the years, you get to certain stages of business growth, and there are things that show up naturally that you
Hmm.
think are unnatural. It's like
Hmm.
my voice is squeaking when I'm 14. It's like
Right.
something's wrong with me. No, it's natural. You're going to go through this. And then you get to age 21, and your frontal lobes finally come together, and you realize what the way you treated your parents when you were a freshman, right?
Yeah.
And he likens the growth of a business to the growth of a human, and puts it in very practical terms. I found that to be a quick reference, whether I'm talking to a 15-person company or a 200-person company. And as you grow, there are transitions that you go through. And the last book is really because of my stage in life,
Yeah.
and I sat through it, and it's this book here. It's called Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks.
Okay. Hmm.
Arthur Brooks teaches happiness at Harvard Business School in their MBA program. And it's really about, when once you hit pay at past 40, 45, and you start at some point in time between 45 and my age, you start believing that maybe you're not immortal.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's another career transition coming in the future
Hmm.
that
Yep.
maybe isn't the next big job opportunity.
Right.
And how do you stay happy your entire life?
Yeah.
From the time you graduate to the time you put your head on your last pillow, what does that look like? And he's studied that for years, and it was a fascinating read, and it changed my perspective on how not only not only how I think about that next stage, but how I prepare myself and the people behind me for it.
Yeah.
And it was anyway. But I got to hear him speak at a leadership forum here. Hard
Okay.
guy to get, but it's the most oversubscribed class at Harvard.
Really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, strength to
Okay.
strength from Arthur
Strength to
Brooks.
strength, Arthur Brooks. I love it, man. Those are
Yeah.
so you are 2 for 2 on bringing books that we've never had. We've done over 200 of these episodes, Rich, and so that's quite an accomplishment.
Well, yeah.
So
I haven't written one yet, Mark. I'll give you that when it's done.
yeah, there's time for that. There's time for that. No, I mean, I'm the only
Yeah,
one who
yeah,
sat here for 200 hours and interviewed people
yeah,
and had these conversations, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
extreme ownership, Jocko Willing, check. We got that one, guys. We got that. Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of the Team. We got that one, guys. And I'm not knocking it. They're great books and people read them, right? But I also am like, I'm looking for variety because I'm sitting here looking for a new thing to add on my list once in a while too, right? So, but what we do with them, Rich, though, is so inside Jericho, which you and I were talking off the mic, but we
Yeah.
actually create individual growth plans, hyper personalized individual growth plans for whoever wants them when they subscribe or when their company subscribes. And so we put all those into our resource library. And then if those resources match up with capabilities that people are working on to advance their career, it'll suggest the book. So we're going to put those in there on the
Well,
back end.
it was fun. You have to be careful with this one though. If you're going to give it to your management team, which I did, we had a conversation about it. My CFO at the time, this is a year and a half ago, Deb, she calls me up and she said, you know, this new direction you're going. Yep. Well, I took another job. So I go, Deb, what's going on? She says, well, not my fault. It's your fault. You had me read that book, Strength to Strength. I'm
Yep.
55 years old, and I for 4 weeks I sat back and said, what does happiness look like in the next stage of my life? And don't take offense, but it's not working for you. So tell me about that. And so she tells me about that, and I had to look her dead in the eye, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart. I just said, Deb, you know, my love for you is greater than my disappointment in the news.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I am phenomenally happy that you found a path forward because you'll be better for the people around you in your community,
You bet.
right? On that side of it, and we'll survive, right? And
Yep.
that's I'm not going to try and talk you out of it. It's like how long do I have? And we went through a transition process, and she's thriving now, love her to, and she's referring people to us,
Love it.
right? On that side of it, but yeah, it's if you can get people on if you can get people on a path that allows them to grow, you might be the lily pad to their next biggest thing, or you might be their next biggest thing. Either way, you're better off.
You
Yeah.
bet. So good. So good. It's really, I think, one of the most intentional things that we can do. I think that's what God wants us to do is help people along and get them where they're going, even if it doesn't necessarily serve us at the time. So
No, no,
good.
know who they are, know their role,
Yep.
help them to be a positive influence in their community. Yeah.
Love it. Let's
Because
leave it at that.
my guess is, Mark, you want that for your kids.
That's exactly as you're saying it. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, as I was saying before, we've got a slew of them that are young
Oh
adults,
yeah.
18, 20, 22, 24. Like we're just, by the way, for those of you who think, oh, once they become adults, you don't have to parent anymore, then buckle up
Oh yeah.
because the questions just get better.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And the
For sure.
conversations get deeper and the tears get more frequent sometimes depending what they're going through, but the happiness is even more as they become adults too. So Rich, thank you for doing this. Thanks for all the time today. I've greatly appreciated it. It's been fun to reconnect, and I know people are going to take something away from this interview. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah. You bet. Happy to. Thanks, Mark.